is going on, my lovely ladies and gentlemen of the world? This is gonna be a bit weird, because I recorded a Nate Talks, and for some reason, I remember glancing over and seeing that it looked kind of frozen for a bit, but it was only for a split second. The audio capture looked like it was frozen, but then it just kept going, and so I was kind of like, okay, that looked a little weird, but I'll just roll with it, let's just go. I should have just stopped. It was like 30 seconds in, and I went on my whole 25-minute tirade, and sure enough, I played it back just to make sure everything sounded good, so I could also get timestamps, and I noticed it just randomly skipped from about 20 seconds in to around where I would say it was about a minute in. So like I had introduced the first topic I was going to talk about, everything, and that was just gone. So I was just in the middle of this random ass rant with no context, with no knowledge of what I was talking about. So instead of re-recording the entire thing, I'm just going to re-record the introduction. So there may be a bit of an awkward cut. So let me set the stage for you. I don't remember specifically what I said, whether or not I introduced everything that I was going to talk about, or if only the first part. So I am only going to mention the first part. Basically, I read a story recently. Somebody interviewed Harada, and the issue of Tekken 7 not having a tutorial mode popped up. And he basically said, we have data that shows us that fighting game players don't care about the tutorial mode. Thus, we did not add a tutorial mode. Now, that struck me the wrong. Now, I don't know how far I got into this, by the by. I didn't listen to it because it's super weird to listen to yourself. But basically, the crux of my issue is that he says they have data that suggests this. Right? Now, I have plenty of data on the flip side of that. Tons of praise upon games like Guilty Gear, Skullgirls. I have heaped tons of praise on Unist because of its expansive tutorial mode. And I know for a fact many other people have as well, and many people have benefited in these games from those tutorials, and you are just out of your fucking mind if you actually believe you have data, hard, actual evidence of everything, all-encompassing factors that go into making a tutorial and making a good tutorial, and then saying, yeah, fighting game players don't give a fuck. You're wrong. Look, go onto YouTube. Literally walk onto YouTube and just type in some random tech that you know of from any game whatsoever. Look up Korean backdashing, since we're talking about Tekken. Look up plink dashing for Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Look up plinking in general. Look up charge partitioning. There are so many fucking things that go into fighting games that are so intrinsic to playing to improving yourself and playing at a higher level. And thousands upon hundreds of thousands, millions of views of various tutorials throughout the ages for all of these aspects of fighting games. And this dude says he's got data that suggests fighting game players don't use the tutorials? You know what fighting game players don't use, Harada? Bad fighting game tutorials. You know what you have created in your past, Harada? Bad fighting game tutorials. Alright, I'm done. Move into whatever the fuck I was talking about. Sorry if there's some repeat shit, but I'm heated, I'm pissed, and I need everybody to know it. Fuck Harada and fuck his ideas because he's wrong. I have to imagine that the quote-unquote data these people are using are only from their own games and looking at how many people actually use their own tutorials. And so the issue here is their tutorials throughout Tekken, when they have existed, which has been rare, have sucked. They've been useless, fundamentally useless. They do not teach you about the game. They teach you like the barest shit that anybody can go into. Like if you go into training mode and you hit each button once, and then you hit each potential combination of buttons once, that's about the extent of the shit that most quote-unquote fighting game tutorials will teach you. Now there are exceptions to this rule. Guilty Gear now. Skullgirls, I think, is one of the biggest ones that always gets pointed to. Unist coming out soon. We're gonna see that in English, which I can't wait for. And that is the crux of my whole argument. Is I'm looking at Unist, right? Now I'm a person. I would like to say I know quite a bit about fighting games, quite a bit more than most people, because I have played them at a competitive level, and I've delved into the mechanics a lot more than a lot of other people have, because other people just don't have much reason to it. They're not fighting the best of the best, and so you don't have to know about various things like option selects. Like, and I'm evaluating this also from the time my knowledge before I started going to tournaments, before I started competing with other people, and I started having all these high-level people around me to kind of tell me what was going on, to teach me all the various mechanics, night and day. I didn't even know what an option select was. I didn't know anything about frame data. You know, I still see some of you guys are like, what the hell are you talking about when you say, you know, what's +3, what's -9, all that stuff. What the fuck does that mean? That was me before I started going to tournaments. And so even myself is somebody who I think that I can acknowledge that I know more than most people who play fighting games do, played Unist's tutorial mode in a completely different language. I couldn't even understand what exactly they were telling me, and yet I learned from it. It was such a good tutorial, such a comprehensive, expansive tutorial regarding the mechanics of the game, regarding various scenarios you may be put into it. Even started talking about option selects that exist within the game that obviously the developers themselves are aware of. It went into such amazing depth that I learned something despite the fact that it's all portrayed from a foreign language. I can't even read what's going on in the screen, and I still learn shit. And you know how valuable that is as a fighting game player? Now, also, think about this from another perspective. Forget everything I just said about Unist. Tekken 7. First Tekken I've ever played. I'm not really that big into 3D fighting games, I'll freely admit that. I just haven't gotten into them before. None of them have really rubbed me the right way. I just don't find them terribly enjoyable in comparison to 2D fighters. So Tekken 7 was my first point where I really kind of jumped in. I played some Soul Calibur 2 way back in the day, but again, that was long before I ever became competitive. I was basically just a button masher. I didn't really know anything about mechanics. I didn't know about things like, you know, being able to kind of quote-unquote wave dash, all that kind of stuff that's potentially available in a 3D fighting game. I didn't know any of that. So, what's it actually? Korean backstep? Or backdashing in Tekken. I don't know if Soul Calibur has its own version. I don't know anything about Soul Calibur because I don't think Soul Calibur has been worth paying attention to since Soul Calibur 2. So, oops. But yeah, so I hopped into Tekken, and I was actually enjoying it a decent amount, and then I started, like, really delving into it. Because, you know, you want to learn the basics yourself. You want to kind of understand, alright, do I enjoy the fundamental aspect of this game before I start really looking into the deeper systems, looking into all the various, you know, technology that people have developed over the years of playing Tekken. Do I just enjoy the game for the game? And if I enjoy playing it at a very basic level, then I'm probably going to enjoy playing it at a competitive level. That's not 100% true. I have definitely seen and experienced games that are a lot more fun before you start taking them seriously, and then once you do, you're just kind of like, oh, this kind of just takes all the fun out of it. But yeah, anyway, so I was really starting to delve into Tekken 7, and then I start kind of seeing all these things that are just such a bitch to deal with. Incredibly difficult, like in regard to all the various things that you have to do, all the hidden mechanics that are inside of it, and so I start looking up tutorial videos and stuff like that. And then I start seeing tutorial videos about mechanics that are in the game that you will almost never see, and they pop up so rarely that, like, you'll get hit by something and something will happen. You'll kind of glance at it like, that looked different. What happened? I don't actually know what happened. And then you won't see it again for another 100 matches. And then you get bodied by it again in one round, and you lose that round because of it. But then you never see it again for another 100 games. And it's like, how are you supposed to know about this? Because the game never tells you. The game never makes an explicit explanation about anything that goes on in it, because there's no tutorial. It's just basically, you are completely reliant upon the knowledge of everybody that has come before you. And so when you're looking at a game and you're basically saying, the entire potential growth of new players into my game is 100% dependent upon the goodwill of the people that have been playing this series since its inception, or since, you know, version 2 or 3 or whatever, all the people that have come before, that doesn't work in the long run. You cannot do that. You need something within the game itself to teach your players if you expect them to actually stick around. Now, obviously, see, that's the big thing that you're looking at right here. Are you looking for somebody who's going to buy the game, play it for a week or a month, and then just shelve it? Or are you trying to draw people in that are going to wind up being lifelong players? Because we're really going to find out, because Tekken 7 is, I think, the best-selling Tekken that we've had, period. As far as I'm aware, like, Namco Bandai has seemed very proud of it. I don't actually know 100% if that's true or not, but they've definitely kind of flaunted the sales numbers, and you usually don't do that unless it's been very successful. And so the question is that going to carry over? Or was this just a product of so much disappointment surrounding the fighting game industry recently that people just kind of latched on to something that seemed super good? But then again, you try to delve into it and you realize that there's a lot of things going on here that you don't understand. And there's no way to figure that out in-game. You can only go, again, to external resources like various YouTubers or streamers or whatever. You have no way within the game itself or with anything from the Tekken team specifically to try to help you out. It's all reliant upon third-party, essentially volunteer work. And that's unhealthy, and it's complete bullshit to say that quote-unquote data states that people that buy fighting games don't care about the tutorial mode. That's straight bullshit. Because every single time you see Guilty Gear brought up, people bring up the exceptional tutorial mode. Every single time Skullgirls is brought up, you bring up the exceptional tutorial mode. These things are noticed, and they're noteworthy, and they are worth discussion, and they're worth putting the effort into, because essentially you're creating a foundation, right? Like, we're on Tekken 7 now. Almost everything that's in Tekken 7 has carried over, at least to an extent. Like, you put in the effort once, and the next time you have a game come out, you already have 90% of the blueprint needed in order to create another tutorial mode. It's already all there. You have all the data. It's not like it's something that you need to rehash every single time, like you need to start from scratch whenever you make a new game. The system is the same. And so all that I can see from that is, number one, inherent laziness and just searching for an excuse to not do something that you personally don't think is needed, but you don't have the balls to actually say, no, I just don't want it in my game because I think players should figure this shit out for themselves, which is just stupid to begin with, because they're not going to. That's how it works. Like, people, like, you're gonna have one person find out one thing, and then 3,000 people are never gonna know anything about it, but all it takes is that one person to say something, and now all 3,001 people know it. But one of those 3,000 is gonna find something that one person didn't, and now they shared, and now they both know it, right? It's just, that's how data works. That's how it always works out. There is no single entity in the world that's just going to go in and figure out everything. It's not going to happen. So why would you at least not put people on the path? Now, I'm not asking necessarily for some incredibly in-depth... Unist. Again, I'm going back to that. I can tell how comprehensive it is regarding the entire game, yet I can't read a single word that they have on the screen. But I can tell how good it is, how effective it is, and how amazing it's going to be once it's actually translated. You don't need to go to that depth to provide a good tutorial. That is, like, the hallmark. That is what you should look at to, if you want to make something, not necessarily, I can't call it perfect, because, again, I don't exactly understand everything that's going on, so I can't say it's perfect. But when you're trying to make something excellent, that's what you should look at. You don't need excellent. You can stick with great. That's fine. Like, you don't need to talk about every single tiny little minute piece of data. But if I see somebody just movement, that's it. Let's not talk about buttons. Let's not talk about moves. Let's not talk about combos. Let's not talk about any of it. Let us only talk specifically about movement. The pure foundation of three-dimensional fighting games is entirely based upon your movement. Everything just clicks into place from there. Once you've got the movement down, everything is going to be okay at that point. Do they teach you a fucking thing about movement? No, they do not. They don't teach you how to do any kind of Korean backdashing. They don't teach you how any kind of movement tech. They don't even teach you how to tech in the game. There's like 8 different ways to tech after a knockdown, and they don't teach you a single fucking one of them. It's okay if you don't want to go in and teach the player 100% of what's going on in your game. You should, because again, that's what's going to keep people there. People don't want to have to go out and do research on a game. Do you all know how boring research is? It sucks. But if it's right there, right in front of me, displayed front and center inside the game itself, I'm going to learn a lot more, and I'm going to appreciate it a lot more, and I'm going to talk up your game a lot more. Instead, I'm sitting here shitting on your game because instead of putting in a proper tutorial mode, instead of properly teaching people how to play your game, teaching people how to play your characters, instead of actually writing a good story, you put in $13 fucking DLC bowling. And you expect people to just be like, oh yeah, you know, he's right. That data's right. People don't care about tutorial modes. Fuck you, Harada. You're an idiot. Just fuck right off. God damn, that's just irritating. It's so irrational, and there's nothing to defend it at all. He's completely full of shit, and I hate that. So let's move on to point number 2. This is the thing. See, I feel like a bad guy. Because there are people out there who are very excited for BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, and I don't begrudge you for that. I don't blame you for that. If you want to be excited about a game, be excited about a game. Not everybody in the world is going to love something you love, right? So somebody who doesn't love something that you are currently enjoying shouldn't harm your own enjoyment. So with that out of the way, let me shit talk the hell out of BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle because it scares me right now. Number 1, the fact that people went to an event where it was showcased, they had a demo. Now, obviously, this is a very, 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 very early version of the game. Most of the characters aren't even available. We don't even know who the majority of the characters that are going to be in the game are yet. All we have is speculation on that front. But when people play your game and walk away from it in a certain section of them, not just a small section, a pretty decent amount of people are like, huh, I wonder if that was just stylish mode. Like, they wanted to make it as easy to play as possible to showcase it with... Because, you know, obviously, you can't just go into an event where there's hundreds of people waiting in line, potentially, and just be like, yeah. I know y'all want to play this, but just give me, like, 5 hours in training mode to figure everything out, okay? We good? Cool. You just wait there. I'll be here 5 hours, then I'll go on my lunch break, I'll be gone for 30 minutes, I'll be back for another 3-hour shift, alright? We cool? We cool. Alright, let's do this. That's not gonna happen. You get like 5 minutes, and then you're kicked off. So, if you're trying to make the game simple and easy to understand, yeah, you might want to roll some kind of stylish mode, but once people start hearing about it, how simple it is, and how strict all the mechanics are, it gets a little scary. And so basically, if you're not aware of what I'm talking about, the biggest thing from my perspective is how limited normals are in the game. You have 4 buttons. And normally that'd be okay. They're drawing from 3 games that are all 4-button games. BlazBlue has A, B, C, D. Persona 4 Arena, I actually can't even remember what their buttons are. But actually, I think they are indeed A, B, C, D as well. D functions as basically everything you do, your Persona normals, essentially. And then Unist also has A, B, C, D. But for them, D is all has to do with either like blocking or you're using your assault. It's a different thing. You don't get any actual moves from it, but you get like you tech throws with it, you get a defensive barrier with it. There's a variety of things you do with it. Anyway, they're all 4-button games. So it makes sense to have your game be a 4-button game. But technically, it's a 3-button game, and then you have 1 button relegated to the assists. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because when you're looking at the potential for any single button, you have every single direction on the joypad available at your disposal if you want to assign a normal to it. So you can have something on, let's just pretend we're talking about the A button right now. You can have something on 4A, 2A, 3A, 6A, 5A. Technically, you can do the upward directions as well, but really, you probably don't want to do that because then it makes it hard to do an instant jump. Normal, it could interfere with that. You probably wouldn't want to, but it's not outside the realms of possibility. Anyway, you have a lot of directions to work with, right? So you can have a lot of command normals. That's perfectly fine. They don't have any command normals. There are no 6As, 6Bs, 6Cs, none of that. There's no 3Bs, no 1Bs, nothing. And you have 4A, which serves as everybody's jab, and that's it. And then you have, I believe, what I heard was correct, 5B is like a universal anti-air. 5C is a universal overhead. I think a combination of those two buttons is a universal... No, wait, is a combination of the buttons a universal DP? Or was that actually one of the normals by itself? Please, God, don't be one of the normals by itself. Anyway, so the only button you actually have that requires a direction outside of 5 whatever and 2 whatever is 4A. Everything else is unassigned. There are no command normals. So you're looking at a moveset where you're potentially getting less than 50% of this character's normals that exist in their other games. That's crippling. That's devastating. You're losing entire identities of characters through this. So that, to me, is very, very worrisome. We'll see where it heads from there. And again, whether or not people may be correct that it's a kind of like a stylish mode just to make it easier to play for a demo period. But that is my biggest concern right now, is just, oh God. Anyway, but the biggest thing that I am concerned about at the moment is very simple. Can we even trust Team Blue at this stage of the game? Because one of the biggest things from my perspective is that, like, if I put something out in the market, if I had a product and something didn't work correctly, like it didn't ruin the product, didn't cripple anything, but it caused people agitation and made people kind of wish that this didn't exist, that there wasn't this flaw in the product, I would be very, very hard-pressed to not do something about it. Because that product is an extension of me. My pride is associated with that, right? So its quality reflects on my capability. And so if there's something inherently wrong with the product, you best believe I am going to fix it so that it properly reflects my abilities. Now that I've stated that, BlazBlue, their lobbies have been fucked since the beginning of this game. Years now. Not years. A year. Very, very long time. The game has been flawed. And they have not fixed it. They have not stated anything about it. They haven't even said, yes, we're aware of it, we just don't give a shit, deal with it, fuck you. They've said nothing. And yet the problem persists. It's always going to be there. And then we have Central Fiction 2.0, which came out and fucked some things up. Needless to say. Obviously, they were aware of this because they patched the Asian version. But only the Asian version, which caused all kinds of other problems. Obviously, one of them you may know about if you watched that, last quote-unquote replay theater, given that it wasn't actually a replay theater. I can no longer watch replays of Japanese players because I do not have the same version as them. So the game specifically says, you are on a different version of this replay, you cannot replay it. It will not work. So I can't watch replays. There are all kinds of connection issues if somebody with a non-Asian version tries to connect with an Asian version. It's just caused all kinds of problems. It's fucked everything up. And they've done nothing about it. They've stated nothing. We're just sitting here in limbo hoping and praying that this game we all want to play, we all want to function, doesn't function. And now they're going to work on BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. And I don't think it's outside reason to state that BlazBlue has been going downhill since Chrono Phantasma. The overall quality of it. Just the production quality, the actual effort seemingly put into the games, the amount of passion. Because that's required to actually really put effort into something. There's some degree of passion for it. Whatever your reasoning for it is, there has to be something driving you to succeed and to make it amazing. And that just seems to be absent recently from BlazBlue. And now we're coming into BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. Can they be trusted at this point? And honestly, right now, I don't think they can. And that's a damn shame to say, but it's all that I can think. And the only saving grace I can potentially see in all of this is that we have two outside companies who have proven themselves to be pretty reliable in regard to overall quality. We have Atlas on the Persona Arena side. So what if, something goes wrong and they're looking at it and they're seeing all these complaints popping up that are now directed but slightly at them because they're associated with it now. Are they going to lean on, they could even have the entirety of Sega lean on Arc System Works and say, yo, this reflects poorly on us, fix it. You have French bread now, who have shown time and time again they are very dedicated to ensuring that their game is of a high quality. Are they going to lean on them if something goes wrong and say, like, look, man, like, you need to do something about this? We would. And is that going to drive Arc System Works to finally be like, okay, alright, we'll do something, we'll make it better? Who knows? But right now, in regard to Team Blue, it's just like, it scares me. It's worrisome what they can potentially do, especially now that they're making this game for the PS4, the PC, and the Switch. All three of these are radically different platforms that are going to require very different skills to make work. And we've actually seen, like, every time they've come out with a BlazBlue port to PC, it's been fucked initially. And there's just a huge backlash directed at Arc System Works, and then eventually they fix it. So, you know, eventually it'll work, but you don't want to deal with eventually, right? You want it to function and be perfect from the get-go so that you actually get a swarm of people coming in that aren't just immediately turned away at the door because there's a ton of negativity in the air, right? I mean, that's just what happens. If there's something wrong with the launch of something, a ton of people are just going to turn around and never look at it again, and you're going to lose all those potential sales. And right now, I could see that happening because Team Blue that's just where Team Blue's at. And, anyway, I'm going to stop bitching. I mean, I do have to give a little bit. It's not really to do with my interest. Like, this whole concern of it isn't to do with my interest. Like, I'll freely admit, what I have seen from BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle right now doesn't really interest me as a fighting game. I would much rather just play Dragon Ball FighterZ. BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle so far has shown me nothing that makes me want to just go out and buy it and play it right now. But there also is not a single character currently announced, currently in the game, that I give a single flying fuck about. So that's also, I have to give that the possibility that there's just, I mean, because just imagine if BlazBlue had nothing but, like, the initial characters, then you take out, like, Tager, Bang, and Hakumen, and you put Hazama back in there, and I'm just like, oh, yeah, I don't give a fuck about this game. I'm trying to think, there would be nothing, actually, without those three characters that I just said, there would be nothing in BlazBlue that would make me walk into it and be like, oh, yeah, I really want to play this game. There's no characters left without those three. Because it was actually Hakumen and Bang that really drew me into BlazBlue in the first place. I really liked the visual effects of Hakumen's special moves. And then I couldn't play Hakumen because I was even worse then than I am now. And the links and the motions and the whatnots were way too hard for me. Plus the meter management was too much. That's why I switched to Bang. But still, like, without those three characters in the game, I would probably never have played BlazBlue. And so then you look at, you know, BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle, obviously that's what's in the game so far. There's nothing in there. There's none of the characters from Untitled that I care about. There's none of the characters from Persona 4 Arena that I care about. There's nobody from BlazBlue that I care about. And I don't know anything about Ruby. So they're just kind of a non-presence to me at the moment. Like, sure, I'll try them. I don't have anything necessarily against them. But I've also not been shown anything that's like, oh my god, I need to play that. So I don't know, we'll see how it develops, but yeah, that's the main thing I'm concerned about. It's not necessarily the game itself or the characters, it's the company behind it, and I don't trust them. So we'll see where it goes. Anyway, with all that negativity out of the way, hope you all have a wonderful day. I will.